Another working group is housing and conflict. It will be presented by Mr. Catalin Berescu, architecture from Romania, which was cooperating on designing and reconstruction the houses and for the mixed Romanian community that live in a deplorable condition in a historical center of Derohai. And the working group was focused on discussion on insufficient distinction between the camps, illegal settlements and squads, and further fostering the confusion between nomads, migrants and the refugees. The workshop aims to introduce the conceptual framework that can improve the design of future policies. So, your time.
Thank you. Our workshop title was Housing and Conflict, and we started from the idea that housing is a very strong, housing in this disadvantaged areas inhabited by Roma is an expression of a very strong social conflict. Then we described a little bit the diversity of housing conditions of Roma, which is this idea of an extraordinary diversity of Roma communities is well accepted, but never used as such when it comes to policies and designing interventions. In other words, we see that the discourses, the analysis that is applied to housing conditions of Roma is very much similar in Rodnice, Ben Laden, or in Dorohoi, or in Italy, regardless of the fact that the situation on that particular land is somehow different. So acknowledging diversity would also mean that we need more diverse policies, more diverse programs that would address all these particular situations. Well, within this, starting with this, first I have to say that our workshop, Housing and Conflict, was somehow designed in a complementary way with the workshop that Maria Faraone ran, which was on participatory planning. So we were looking at, trying to look at negative sides and slowly moving towards the way out of this situation. After presenting a framework of analysis of different Roma neighborhoods, we were looking at a good practice introduced by Claude Kahn. And Claude has a wide experience in Europe, but he had to travel to Philippines to find a nice example to present as a good practice that he thought that it's really informative for us. And of course there's a lot of difference, and this allowed him to make comparisons of what is lacking here and what is nice there. So suddenly the idea of best practices or good practices or positive practices that is central to our meeting, to our conference here, came under attack. So we discussed it very critically, looking at all these good practices as things that are not really transferable. And then we had some very strong contributions from our participants. I could mention our Spanish colleague that was somehow amazed of the fact that Spain is looked at as being the country that has almost everything in Spain is nowadays regarded as being good practice, and people are invited to tour Roma communities and to transfer practices. Well, our vision was that best practices are never good practices. There is nothing as a perfect good practice as such, but all practices are more ambiguous. So we always have to look at them in a highly critical way, and actually you can learn more from mistakes than from ambiguous successes. Well, then we were looking at policies and other frameworks of analysis, because we benefited of Nabil Hamdi, he's a professor in Oxford, and he has a very good vision of participatory planning in a historical way. He knows about the history of participatory planning, and what is nice is that he knows about the failures of participatory planning. And we think that improving knowledge in participatory planning is what is needed now. So we cannot transfer anything from anywhere unless we have more tools to understand what we are looking at. Because if you go to Rodnice, you hear exactly the same discourse as you hear in Mimiu, in Ploiești, while the level of poverty is totally different, and it requires different participatory tools, different attitudes, and different policies to take those people out of their situation. So best practices, it's a very nice idea because it puts people in a mood that would move things. But when it comes to practical terms, we have to reconsider a lot. Then we're looking at this idea of housing, redefined here by Article 7.2. So a great opportunity to have new housing for Roma. And we're a little bit worried that if we jump on it without redefining radically what we do and looking at the worst things that happened, we will end up by just reproducing what happened until now, which was, in most cases, when you look at so-called good practices, bad practices, was just refurbishment of ghettos or creating new ghettos. So we were just expressing this idea that there might be a danger in what is going on right now, and we should look at it. Thank you.